Welcome everyone. Thanks for being here this morning. This is the soil health breakout session. We're going to catch up at lunch, our time at lunch. So we're going to go ahead and give all the speakers some time to speak. But thanks for being here. So we'll get right into it with Mr. Jared Miller. Jared operates the Delta Dairy LLC along with his parents Ted and Melissa Miller. It's a 600 cow seasonal grazing based dairy in Northeast Louisiana. He graduated from high school in 2019, and he's currently in the second year of a welding certification at Delta Community College. He's worked in some capacity, various capacities on the dairy since he was 10 years old. So please welcome Jared. Thank you.
Today I would like to speak about sustainable winter feeding. A little backstory to Delta Dairy. My parents, Ted and Melissa Miller, started dairy farming in South Central PA in 2002. In 2006, my dad met Mr. Charles Opitz at a NAT GLC meeting in St. Louis. And Mr. Charles mentioned he had land in Louisiana, Northeast Louisiana. And he said it'd make a really good dairy farm. Well, Dad got to thinking about it, and he said, I'd really hate to be that guy. Well, he's that guy. Feeling the need to expand, Dad ended up taking Charles up on his offer, and we moved the operation south, and they formed Delta Dairy LLC. The winters are very different in Louisiana versus Pennsylvania. We don't have any frozen ground, so we just make mud, and we couldn't justify tearing up our sod. We used feeder wagons. That didn't work. Having prior experience using an Agway bale feeder, we implemented that as our only feeding method. In 2014, we updated from the Agway to a Hustler chainless bale feeder. And in 2019, I became a dealer for Hustler. Now, I'm not trying to be a salesman. I'm just talking about the methodology. A year ago, we purchased another bale feeder, and we can't be happier with our soil health results. We've noticed a huge drop in fertilizer inputs and costs. Today, I'll be talking about our winter feeding method and how it's very beneficial to soil health. So, we see bale grazing, hay rings, hay wagons, system where livestock have unrestricted access to whole bales of hay. Well, there's some advantages. Requires less management. You just throw bales out. If you're like me, you just go throw bales out and then go to the deer stand. Well, may not be beneficial to your soil health. The overhead costs are minimal. You just need a tractor, loader, and a hay ring. Well, there's also some disadvantages that come with that. 30 to 35% total hay wastage and spoilage. Cows don't eat it all. They trample a bunch of it into the mud. Lower forage quality and yields in those pastures. Lower stocking rate. Less forage produced per acre. It's just not real good for your soil. Uneven pasture use. You may set your bales here or at the other end. The cows are going to stay there. They're not going to want to go back and forth. They're going to stay there and make a mud hole in each end of the field. Greater forage losses due to trampling. Like I said, they'll trample it in the mud, and then you'll be throwing even more out there, and you'll end up with a hay pile out there. That's just your nutrients isn't moved around the field. The animal manure isn't distributed evenly. Like I said, they're going to stay at one end of the field or in the middle. If you put your bales in the middle, they're going to stay there. Your manure isn't going to be spread out over the field. Weed and other undesirable plants may be a problem. Whenever you soup out the spot where your bales are, usually grass doesn't come back there. Weeds come back. So here's a couple different methods you could use. Some people may use this. You could use a bale unroller, one of those that mounts on the back of a pickup truck, or it's 3-point Well, the pros are its cheap equipment cost. It maintains the nutritional leaf and particle size. The cons, the cows bed down in it, herd stands and soils in it, limited access to feed, high waste factor. Bale processor. They work. They're great for bedding. They work really good for bedding. Cons, it pulverizes and loses hay nutrition. If you ever seen what comes out of a bale processor, it's really ground up. There's no nutrition in the leaf and the stem anymore. Speeds up passage rate. That ground up fine feed moves through the cow a lot faster. You don't get the cows can't pull the nutrition out of it as good. Creates a lot of dust. And the big thing, it's very expensive in capital outlay, fuel and maintenance. You need a big tractor. You need the bale processors aren't cheap. You're using a lot of fuel, and breakdowns are very expensive. High dry matter and nutritional loss, that goes back to pulverizing the hay. Now what we use is a gentle windrower. The pros, least time and fuel consumption, equal access to feed. The cows can all come up to the windrow. There's no, whenever you set a bale out, your boss cows are going to get there first, and then your other cows are going to get there once they fill up. Let's see, low waste factor. The cows really clean it up good. Better digestion and nutritional uptake. Easily handles bale-age. I don't know if y'all feed bale-age, but we do. And some of those bales are heavy and they don't unroll real nice. Well, this handles it really good. The cons, it's not great for bedding. We do use it to bed calf pens, but that's kind of on a small scale. Here you see what happens whenever you're feeding in one spot or off a hay trailer or a ring. The cows are going to eat some of the bales. Not all of them. They waste a bunch of it. You see in the top right picture, they make it a mud hole, and then you see the ring. They'll get in the ring, get themselves stuck. Just a lot of waste. This is a term that I found and I heard. It's a really good term. It's biocarpeting. It's mimicking grazing through intentionally gentle distribution of stored feeds in a long, narrow windrow. One, it's better pasture production. You can strategically pick your pastures where you want to feed at. You can put more pressure there. You can take pressure off of that. Strategic hoof traffic. You can move the cows where you want to put them. You can feed in a spot where you want to beat down certain ground, get ready for planting. Control manure management. If you have a field that needs some soil health, move the cows in there, feed them in there, and you can pick your spots, and you can really get good manure management that way. Increased feed efficiency and nutritional uptake of your forages. With the windrower or the bale feeder, it doesn't grind up the leaves, doesn't grind up the stems. It just unrolls the bale naturally in a fluffy pile on the ground, as it would look like before you would bale it up after the rake ran through. Consistent herd uniformity. All the cows get something to eat. There's no boss cows getting there first. When you go out there, unroll a bale, they all walk up to the windrow, they all get something to eat. Minimal time, fuel, wear and tear on equipment. When you're running a bale processor, you're running a tractor at high RPM, you're spinning a PTO shaft, hard on stuff. You're turning a bearing, you're always going to break something. Ask me how I know. Biocarpeting is rotational or mob grazing, a system where you lay out a long, narrow windrow in a new location every single day to best distribute manure or any residual hay to increase feed efficiency and encourage optimum pasture production. The advantages: highest forage production and use per acre, 30 to 50% more compared to continuous. The stocking rates can typically be increased. You can put more cows in a pasture if you're rotational or mob grazing and feed them there every day because they're all going to get something to eat. There's no fighting for food, for hay. They're all going to get something. More even distribution of manure throughout the paddocks. Whenever you're rotational, the cows are moving every day, so you can strategically place them where you want more manure, and the nutrients spread out. Weeds and brush are usually controlled through grazing. The cows will take care of them. They'll stomp them down whenever you can set stock in a certain place, and they will clean that pasture up. It provides more grazing options and reduces the need for mechanically harvested forages. Now, there is some disadvantages. It requires careful monitoring of pasture conditions. You got to be in there every day. You got to be checking them. The initial cost may be higher due to the feed distribution system, and it just requires more management. Now, we have down the road from the main place, we have 200 head of replacement heifers, and they get 4 bales every other day. And it takes one person about 15 minutes to unroll 4 silage bales. I can leave the shop, get there, load my 4 bales, 2 on the machine, 2 on the front end loader. I can have them unrolled in about 15 minutes. And we strategically move around that field every time we feed. Moves the manure around, moves the cows around, and they will clean it up. I think I have, okay, this is going to be a video. The manure and the urine are spread out and not concentrated to one spot like you'd be feeding in a bale ring. And the cows are standing and eating instead of bedding down in the hay, like if you would take a bale and just unroll it flat. They like to bed down whenever you unroll it that way. Here's a video of us unrolling. Be one of our hired guys. Just shows you how long it takes to unroll a full bale till it's done. It doesn't take long at all. Hopefully that kind of gave you a good idea of what we do on a daily basis. As you can see, we carry 2 bales on the front of the tractor, and then we can carry 2 on the machine. When we go to the field, we're feeding 600 head of dairy cows, and they're getting 6 in the evening, and then about 5 in the morning. So it's really efficient. We can go to the field with two rigs, feed, be done, and we've just noticed a great incline in our soil health. Like I said, we've really cut out fertilizer costs. It just really works well for us. So, in summary, you do want to rethink how you feed your forages. You want to rethink about feeding in a ring, feeding on hay trailers. Think about what you're doing to your ground. Consider maintaining the nutritional leaf and particle size of the original plant. If you're using a bale processor, you might want to rethink that. Now, I mean, if it's working for you, that's good, but just think about what you're doing to the plant and your passage rate through the cow. It'll reduce your time, fuel, and maintenance costs by gentle windrowing. I'm not trying to be a salesman here, but we don't work on these machines very often. And the yellow one up there in the picture, it has probably 12,000 bales through it, and I think all we've done on it is chains. It'll improve the productivity of your land and your herd. You'll notice better soil health, better gain on your cows. You don't want to waste your forages because that's money. It's wasting your money. You don't want to damage your pastures by feeding in hay rings or hay wagons. That's not what you want to do. You don't want to get your grass established and then just tramp it out by feeding. You don't want to lose valuable nutrition absorption by processing, grinding your hay. That goes back to using a bale processor. The cow can't get the nutrition if the hay's ground up as good. It passes through them faster. You don't want to waste time and fuel with uneconomical feeding methods. Like I said, that's money. We want to try and utilize our money in ways that benefit us. We don't want to be wasting our money on wasted time and wasted fuel. That's about it.
Thank you, Jared. We've got time for some questions. Look like we've got the first one right here.
How are you judging that your soil health is improving?
We've done some tests, and we've seen.
Look, I'm going to repeat the question real quick so we have it for the video. So the question was, how are you judging how your soil health is improving?
We've done some tests, and we've seen our soil health come up over the years after feeding this way.
What tests, if you would?
Not real sure. What tests have we done? Soil.
We've seen organic matter levels considerably, and that's not only from a managed rotation or grazing standpoint. I know that's from recycled organic matter.
So one of the kind of the answer was they've seen the organic matter start to increase from conventional soil tests, and they've done some forage sampling also to see improvement. Any other questions? Right here.
Is there a reason that you haven't looked into polywire and say rather than being out there every single day, using polywire to
use
multiple windrows and then allocate through the week?
See, we got such a big herd. We have our fields numbered. We have I think 60 some paddocks we can use. We do use polywire in the spring whenever we're on green feed. We don't use polywire while we're using or while we're feeding like this.
Do you have a video from the beginning? I saw you had a hay spear in the back of that thing. So you got your round bales all stored up. Back this thing back up and it hits it.
Yeah.
But you got to unwrap it from the neck.
Let's see here. See what I can find.
I like to see it back up and get it.
I don't have a video of that, but the way it works is you'll just back into your hay pile. You'll flip it up over, and you can stop. The forks have a trip, and it'll trip whenever it gets to a certain point. But before that point, you can cut the net wrap, pull it off real quick, get back in the tractor cab, trip it, pull the forks out. They'll reset. so they're ready for the next bale. And all you got to do is just back in the next bale, pick it up, and go.
So, in your experience, what do you, is that maybe 2 football fields, 1 football field, half football field?
You mean the distance of how far we unroll the windrow? You can do it however you want. We try to make it as long as we can so the cows can spread out as far as they can. It's just really up to you and how you want to unroll like that.
How much does one of these?
They're a little pricey. I'm going to go ahead and say it. They're made in New Zealand. They've got tons of different models. They got a 3-point model. They got this trail type. The trail type runs around $22,000. They're not real cheap, but with Hustler, you get what you pay for. Like I said, we don't do much maintenance or much work to them. They don't break very often. We've done chains on the one. Other than that, you keep them greased and you keep them maintained, and they'll last a long time. That yellow one there in the one picture has about 12,000 bales through it, and all we've done is put roller chains on it.
How many bales are you feeding in the winter on average, roughly, or per head maybe?
We're feeding about 2,500 bales during the winter, or over the course of the winter. Milk cows get 5 at night, about 6 in the morning. We kind of oscillate every other day. They were on green feed. And we pulled them off of green feed because we're letting it rest. But just kind of do the math on that. But yeah, about 2,800 bales per winter.
I'm assuming that you don't have to worry about the rotation on the round bale or anything, you know, the way you bale it.
Oh yeah, you don't have to worry about that. It'll do it either way.
I don't know if you heard the question. He asked about if you have to worry about which way that bale's wrapped, if it'll unwrap.
It'll unroll either way.
No more questions. Thank you. I appreciate it.